I'm a newbie to Reddit, and this is my first post, so please tell me if this doesn't belong here. I just have to write this down somewhere where people are more likely to believe me before it's too late. My native language isn't English, so please excuse any spelling mistakes. Okay, so right now I'm sitting in a cafe in Stockholm. It's not that late, but it's already dark outside, and horribly cold. A typical Swedish winter. My god, the people around me are staring. I probably look like I've seen a ghost. But then again, maybe I have. I can't go home at this point. I don't know what to do. It all started in school. I'm studying to become a learning designer. We use our laptops in class and had just been given the assignment to write down instructions on how to walk from the central station to the Stockholm Palace. It's a 15-minute walk at most. The point was to learn how to write pedagogical instructions, basically. Anyway, since my sense of direction sucks, I went straight to Google Maps to make it easier for myself. I went to the central station and changed the view to Street View so that I could take the short trip virtually. I kept my eyes open for buildings, signs, and anything else that I could use in my instructions. Everything was normal up to this point. Then I saw it. A book. It wasn't a real book. It was clearly animated, placed on the ground like some augmented reality thing. When I clicked on it, of course I freaking clicked on it, the view zoomed in on it. Missed, it said on the cover. Now this made me positively surprised. I used to love that game as a kid. For you who are too young to know, it's an old puzzle game where you move around on a deserted island by clicking around like you do in Google Street View. My first thought was that this was some awesome Easter egg in Google Maps, so naturally I clicked on the cover of the book. Suddenly, I was on the island in the game. I hadn't seen it since I was a kid, but I recognised it immediately. Although something felt different. I couldn't put my finger on it, but it just, I don't know, a weird feeling came over me. I can only describe it as a dark nostalgia, like entering some forgotten place from your past that hasn't changed, just as if it had been waiting for your return. I clicked myself around a bit. I didn't have any sound on, but the game didn't use that much sound anyway. Suddenly, my teacher wanted our attention, so I closed the laptop and pretended to listen to what she had to say. In reality, I just wanted to continue to explore that poorly 3D animated island. When I left school, it was already dark outside. I hurried home, both curious and somehow anxious. At home, I opened my laptop almost immediately. I was still on Mist Island in Google Maps, standing on the dock looking up at the strange building that looked like a couple of huge gears. The island had a lot of these mysterious structures. I turned on the sound, and that's when I noticed something really weird about the game. You see, in the original game, you only heard the water, the wind, and some birds. Sometimes there was some music as well, I think, but now, oh god, it gave me the chills. What I heard from my speakers was faint crying. It wasn't the cry of a toddler, but definitely of a child. A bit uneased, I clicked my way through the island. I noticed that the crying got weaker when I walked towards the gear building, so I turned around and clicked my way towards the library instead, a building looking like a small Roman temple or something. The closer I got to the library, the louder the cries became. Although it was creepy, I didn't assume anything worse than some Russian virus or some shit, so I kept going. Eventually, I got into the library, and at the same moment, the crying stopped. There was a book on the floor that wasn't supposed to be there. Although the game did use books as portals to other worlds, this book was black. The strange thing was that even though I knew that book didn't belong in the game, I still sort of recognized it as if it was part of some distant memory. A memory that had a vague but still strongly bitter sadness to it. I clicked on the book to view the title. F blurb G, it said, in gold on the black cover. I didn't understand that word, but it gave some weird primal panic. I started to sweat, while my heart beat heavily in my chest. I couldn't enter that book, or rather, I didn't dare to. Instead, I clicked in the corner and stepped away from the book. Then, I turned around to face the door out of the library. And there it was, the source of the sound. I wasn't ready, and stood up in pure fright, with my hands on my mouth. On the screen, in front of the door to the library, was a young boy. But it wasn't the sudden appearance of him that had scared me, but rather how he looked. I knew his face. Somehow I had forgotten about it, but now it all came back to me. I teared up. It was so long ago. How was this possible? The kid in front of me. It was my friend. The one I used to play Myst with as a kid. The kid who disappeared the summer of '94, who was never found. It suddenly came back to me. I once had a close friend. His name was Peter, but he disappeared. How could I have forgotten about that? With a shaking hand, holding my breath, I clicked on the boy, but in the next frame, he stood further away, with his back turned to me. I clicked again. Same thing. It was as if he was walking away from me. I kept clicking Peter, or whatever it truly was, walking down to the dock where I had appeared on the island. When I got there, he was gone. But there was another book on the ground. Home was written on the cover. I clicked it and immediately returned to the bridge where I had found the first book. I looked around and spotted the boy. I continued to follow him. He was in every frame in direction of the central station. I followed suit, terrified. I was crying myself now, but I also felt something else from the core of my being that I couldn't explain. Guilt. I followed the boy around the city for what felt like more than an hour, and then it dawned on me. He knew where he was going. He was only a block away from my apartment. I panicked like I've never panicked before. I closed the computer and smashed it on the floor. Yes, I'm writing on my phone now, by the way. And then I hastily got dressed and ran. I ran like crazy. And that brings me to this very moment. To this cafe where I'm hiding from the friend who disappeared when I was a kid. Help me. Please, I can't go home. I don't have any close friends to call. Come to think of it, I haven't had any close friends since I was a kid. When my best friend suddenly disappeared without a trace, how could I ever have forgotten about him?